Hello there, this is Nomad once again for a new small video about Dominions 5 modding. A friend had some trouble making his own flag sprite for the nation he's working on currently. So I decided to make a small tutorial. I already made one last video about making a crest, and of course I wasn't very efficient, but it could at least show you how to make one of the most complicated kinds of crests, because make no mistake, it's always possible to just use a sprite that already exists in game, for example an already existing crest, to make your own crest. Anyway, you already know how to make a crest, but now I will show you how to make the other part, the main part of the flag itself. I will let the pole out for now, because like for the crest there are many possibilities for poles, but that's not the case for flags, because in game they follow a very strict set of rules. They always have the same shape, they always have a border of a specific dimensions. They always have exactly two color tones in total. They never have a symbol drawn on them, so they always have the same size, etc, etc, etc. So I start from the assumption that any flag for a Dominions mod should follow this basic set of rules. Of course, you're free to disagree if you want. I won't stop you making very shiny and original flags. It's just my way to mod is following these rules in order to respect and follow the basic aesthetic of the game. So how to make such a flag? Well, I expect this tutorial to be pretty short, because in my opinion that's very simple, much simpler than making a crest, and that's logical because you have much less freedom here. Basically, all you have to do is selecting a color for the border and for the middle part of the flag, and that's all. Just finding the right color tones and pasting that on your flag sprite. So how do you start? Well, first we will open some sprites I have from a sprite dump. You see these three sprites here. They are the basis you use to make a flag in Dominions. So I will open all of them in GIMP, and that's done. So now let's see what they are exactly. First, there's this one. So as you can see, it's missing the border, but it has all the rest, and its color is the same as for indie flags. You have the basic pole here, which hasn't really changed since Dominions 4. No, I'm saying something wrong. That's not true. I think it changed since flags became bigger. Anyway, we are missing just the border, and here it is. The border is here, so we can easily, if we want, copy it. So I select all, Ctrl-C to copy, and then paste, Ctrl-V, and I can just fuse it with the image by selecting this tool, the magic wand, and clicking outside the zone that's selected. So here, and done. We have the border that has been pasted around the flag. And now all we have to do is change the color. So you may ask yourself, oh, that happens sometimes when I open more than one or two more than one or two sprites. That's okay. I didn't make anything complex. So as you can see, it's important to save frequently when you're making a complicated sprite. And we didn't lose any time really here. So what was I saying? Yes, I was going to say, well, you may ask yourself, what is the purpose of this last sprite? Well, the purpose is simple. With it, you can easily change the color of the flag without having to remove the pole. Because obviously, if you make this part red, you don't want the pole to become red as well. So it's practical to have the flag itself separate from the rest. Actually, we could even want this sprite to be just the pole. That would be the most practical probably, but for what we're going to do, that's not an issue at all. Actually, the only way it could be useful to have the situation in which it could be useful to have only the pole would be if you are working on an unusual pole. And it's in no way mandatory in Dominions to have a special kind of pole for your nation. Most nations have the same pole, that pole, this one. A few nations have slightly different poles, sometimes even completely different poles, like for example Fomoria, which has a menhir. But anyway, that's not necessary to change the pole. So let's focus on the flag for now. I will start by copying this here, pasting this here, and now we no longer need this. Maybe I will have to open it later if I forgot something, but theoretically we are done with it. So now what color do we want it to be? That's the question we want to ask ourselves, and that's a creative question. You are free to do whatever you want here. So usually what I do is using this option in the color menu. So the saturation, etc. menu. So here we can how do we say that? We can change. Oh right, no. Yes, we can increase the saturation to make it more colored, and then we can modify the color. We can make it more or less light, but actually that's not the right option to begin with. First, I need to color it here. So what color do we want? Well, we can select any color like that way, and then we can change that color to make it more or less dull and more or less dark or light. Obviously, as you can see, when I make it too light or when I make it too colored, it's starting to, the contrast is starting to fade away, and the flag becomes just a giant pile of the same color. That can easily be fixed later with that menu here, contrast and luminosity. By increasing contrast, we can make the traits more defined. And sometimes we need to also increase luminosity at the same time in order to keep the same kind of color. Sometimes we also want to come back in this menu to increase the saturation again afterwards. But let's start by thinking of a color. So here I'm just doing an example tutorial. I don't have any flag in mind, so I don't know what I want to do. So I will go a bit randomly. What could be a nice flag color? Let's see. Something that's not in game, maybe? So I think that this tint is not used in game. That's between blue and green, that's nice. But maybe we want something that's not directly available, so that I can meddle with more than with the menus to show you. So maybe we want something more darker, some forest flag. Let's see. So as you can see, I'm exploring a bit to show you the options here. Let's keep it that way for now. Now let's try the contrast thing. So as you can see, the color itself changed due to contrast. And that's where we want, for example, to use luminosity to come back to the kind of color we wanted originally, or to come back in another menu later. So usually you don't want to go that far away, unless you just want to make it more lighter. In that case, that's okay. But if you make it very contrasted here, right now, that's hard to fix later. So usually it's better to go step by step, slowly, until you find a color you like. Let's see what we can do now here. We could increase saturation, but it wouldn't have any effect. We could reduce it, and then maybe we want to increase contrast again, because reducing saturation tends to sometimes make things less discernible. We could change luminosity, like here, as you can see, the content of the flag gets less visible, so we would need to increase contrast again in the other menu. Or we could reduce luminosity. I think I like it like that way. We could change tones. As you can see with color, it can also be less visible at some points. So if I picked that color, I would need to increase the contrast in some way again. But anyway, let's keep that color. I like it. Now, in order to facilitate things, avoid an eventual crash of the software again, I will fuse, like I just did by clicking outside the selected zone. I will fuse both sprites. And now, let's take the border, and again, we don't need it anymore. So I close the window to avoid another crash. And now let's again start the process anew, so color, and then I can look for something I like. So first we need to always decrease the luminosity in order to make the color more visible. So then what color do we want this time? Something that contrasts well with green, probably. But not something too colored, because that would be kinda ugly if we had two very flashy colors together. So what could go well with green without being too similar and without being too lively? So we will probably need to decrease saturation in order to make it less colored. Maybe some kind of gray, blue-gray like that. I like that. Let's try that. And now let's try a bit more of contrast to make the flag a little brighter, more metallic, if you will. Not too much, though. That's a nice flag. Here, and we're done. We just have to put a crest here, and we have a flag. And that's it for today. So thank you for watching this video, and see you another time.